Welcome back once again to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. Shockingly, if not surprisingly, I am Chat Show. How are you? We've missed you horribly. Where have you been? You don't call, you don't write. That's not true. I do have some of your missives. Never understood that word. And I will get to them momentarily. But first, I must put my new iPhone 5 on airplane mode. I'm sorry. Did I drop PDAs on you? Airplane mode. Yeah, what I like about the iPhone 5, first of all, if you're on the AT&T Teat, as it were, on your iPhone, I got great news for you. I've developed an app you're going to love that allows you to make a call. So, see the buffering gag on the monitor? I like that he made it into the, well, yeah, I have a plastic case on mine, so it doesn't quite play. The joke doesn't quite work. Let me take off the plastic case. It's like the monolith from 2001, A Space Odyssey. Now that it's taller and thinner, and if you get the black one. So it makes you feel like you're one of the monkeys down at the bottom with the bones, banging and trying to figure out. It is faster and lighter as promised. I had my crew in here moments ago looking at the ridiculous fast speed with which one can just pull up a YouTube video, for example. I'll tell you why I got it. I researched the hell out of it, and I found out that it's made out of alien babies. And I want their souls in me. So, boom. I've been on the Apple Teat since the original tower came out in '84, truth be told. Why am I telling you all this? Because I'm so happy to say that Apple is a new sponsor of this show. Nope. You would think, though. Sorry. Okay. I'm a little out of sorts, and I'll tell you why. We did a pre-shoot. I was going to call it a pre-tape, but that seems like something out of the 70s. What do you call a pre-tape when it's on digital? Pre-record didn't seem right either, because that seems like audio to me. I've got Captain J-Mac in the studio here today. Evil Dr. Chen has taken his moms to Rancho Cucamonga, I think it was.
Diamond Bar?
Mm-hmm. Diamond Bar. Yeah. So anywho, we did a pre-tape 2 days ago, Sunday, 2 days ago, with an absolute hero of mine, and I'm still a little quaking in my boots, Alan Arkin, who, if you've seen any of my stand-up or followed anything I've been doing for the last 15 years, you know that he has not only become a friend, but a part of my act for many, many years. I'll tell you why. It's very strange to have him in the room and not do him back to him. But he went on, his time was limited, so we only spoke for an hour, but we pre-captured it, and it will be on our show a week from today on the 14th, streaming in our normal time zone spot of 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Oh, gosh, that seems like too much to have to say, really, on the subject. Otherwise, it was really phenomenal, and I can't wait for you to see and or hear. How do you enjoy this show? It's one of the many questions I ask the fans to get involved. How do you do KPCS? Write to us at contact@kevinpollakschatshow.com. And now, of course, I have to weigh in with two of my favorite peeps, Jamie and Sam. Jamie? Weird. There's nobody there. Sam, of course, is in Philadelphia, still working on Do No Harm, a television show coming to the National Broadcasting Company. Jamie went to the Pittsburgh, back to the home base to go to a wedding. So I'm without my both my sidekicks, which is a very odd feeling. Friday for the pre-capture, I didn't have my crew either. So I do want to thank Brandis and Jesse from the thisweekend.com crew who filled in, because I did not thank them during that particular show, because I'm a fucker. I think is the, wait, let me check. Yep, fucker. Got it right here. So write to us there at contact@kevinpollakschatsshow.com. Let us know how you do the show. Let us know anything. You have any questions? You've got the Ask Kevin. Bring them. Speaking of which, I think we have one loaded up right now. Ask Kevin. We got to change that. We got to change that graphic. Etiquette is the name of this particular Ask Kevin, and it reads thusly. Kevin, many of your longtime viewers may want to avoid accosting you. So what is the etiquette for crossing paths with you, A, in the street, B, in a restaurant, C, in a confined space such as an elevator? Most people would feel it rude to just ignore people they watch regularly and fail to pay whatever compliment is appropriate. Thanks, William La Rochelle, Toronto, Ontario. I told you we were international. Fuckers. Correct etiquette. Just don't do this. Hey, what was that thing I saw you in? Yeah, don't ever do that to anyone you recognize. Oh, what was that thing? Don't snap your fingers in my face. Don't point at me and give me a look like I know who you are, but I don't remember, so I'm not going to say. Don't do those things. Anything other than that is open field. Bring it. I'll let you know in the moment how annoying you're being and how disturbing to my life you are. Most of us will. I'll almost always take a photo. Almost always. Happy to meet you and say thank you. So there you go. Thanks, William, from the Canada. How is North America, by the way? Are you enjoying being a part of it? Does it seem like I'm stalling? Okay. We ask you also to write to us for a Larry King game. If I read your Larry King game on the show, I will send you a fucking T-shirt. Not a Kevin Pollak's Chat Show T-shirt, by the way. Just a little something from American Apparel I got just for you. Took it off the back of a wildly unattractive model because that's all they use at American Apparel. They went the other way. Have you noticed? Yeah. They said, bring us your homely, your comely, your comely, your yeah. But don't bring us the pretty models. Don't want them. Want real people. And if I may, let me say this to American Apparel. Get that more wrong, by the way. Although they do have a nice profile angle shot on a gal on a couch showing some serious tush through some American Apparel shorts currently on billboards on your streets and cities today.
I'll have that on your monitor.
Please pull that up. We do have a Larry King game winner today. We will be sending this individual a T-shirt, a Larry King game T-shirt. Always remember when you email us, though, to include your address, your shipping address, and your shirt size, you son of a bitch. Our guest today was going to get his own Larry King T-shirt without having to write us. He will have to do a Larry King game at the end of the show, so this will be a good precursor for him. Larry King game is something we created here on the show. Our head writer, Jamie, isn't that right, Jamie? You weird. Thought she was there. So Larry King game. And thank goodness he's on Hulu now, so that he continues to remind us of his ability to share uninteresting, unfathomably uninteresting nonsense. That's what I want. I want a little Larry King moment. I want a bad Larry King impression, first of all. Let's be crystal clear. Good Larry King impression, not interested. Don't find it entertaining in any way, shape, or form. Want a bad one. That's funny. So no pressure to do a good one. Bad Larry King impression. Go off on a tangent as Larry. Share something from any part of your prehistoric life, and then go to the phone. Name of the city is funny sounding. It's going to be helpful. Here now an example from one of our very own listeners and or viewers. 40 years ago, I went to a hypnotist so I could quit smoking. He put me out right away. When I woke up, my wallet was missing, I was bleeding from my ass, and I wanted a cigarette more than ever. I've gone back once a year since. Winnemucca, Nevada, go! That is from Nick from Sonoma, California. Nick, you son of a bitch, send us your shipping address and size, and I will send you off a Kevin Pollak's Chat Show t-shirt. If you want to win your own, folks, just write to us at contact@kevinpollakschatshow.com and offer up your own Larry King. I choose the winners carefully, so if you send them in and people do, they don't get read, it's because it sucked. It was awful. Also, can't wait to buy more XXX Kevin Pollak Chat Show t-shirts. So I'm hoping just to hear from the really heavy-set people. Speaking of which, have you seen the latest South Park?
Oh, yeah.
Good God. 14 years they've been doing the show? How they maintain the edgiest comedy on television after 14 years? They'll never be fat cats. They'll never just sit back and rest on Mr. and Mrs. Laurel.
James Cameron's song is really good.
Oh, God, the James Cameron song. Can you pull it up? It's got to be on Hulu somewhere by now, or on their site. Pull up the James Cameron song. They'll never come after us and sue us. Just play the James Cameron song. It's so fucking good. Okay. So, next Sunday the 14th, Alan Arkin. I believe we're all caught up. Subscribe to us. Write us a review on iTunes. That's all I've got for you. Please, if you want to support this show, goddammit, get off your ass. If you go into Amazon.com, for example, you want to do a little light shopping. Christmas is around the corner. It's sneaking up on you, folks. Halloweeny is a couple weeks away, and you know what that means. Thanksgiving, Christmas. It happens like you're doing a little light shopping, you're going to your Amazon. Maybe you want to pre-order my book, How I Slept My Way to the Middle. I don't know what to tell you.
Who's that? It's him, James Cameron.
Is it going out now?
You guys hearing the song
Well,
up there?
but don't play. Is it on the show right now? Okay.
Yes, James, we hear the song.
Descending to 1,000 feet. I don't see the bar yet. Looks like it must have sunk pretty low.
With a dying thirst to be the first. Could it be? Yeah, that's him, James Cameron.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so go to Amazon.com. If you're on your way there, I mean, stop by our site first for 3 seconds. That's all I ask. Dial up, because it's 1948, KevinPollakschatshow.com. At the top of the homepage is a banner. Click on that, zoom, take you right to the homepage of Amazon, but we'll make 3 pennies. So if you want to support us, 3 cents at a throw, by all means do that. Okay. I told our guests today, I don't have my 2 sidekicks, so the opening's going to be just a couple minutes, and I managed to literally kill 15. What an asshole. Like so many of you, I became acutely aware of my guest today when a certain motion picture opened up in the theaters starring your and my hero, William Shatner. But there was a younger captain to be had, a different leader. And who was this young rascal, we all thought? When does he die? And then I started doing a little more research, and then I met a very good friend of his, which we'll talk about, and then I said, we have to get him on the show, and I'm thrilled to death to welcome to this table Stephen Collins. Hello, sir.
Hello, Kevin.
Let's, a couple questions right off the top.
Yeah.
Any regrets so far
Any regrets?
about being here?
About being here? Oh, I thought you meant like regrets.
No,
I've
no,
had
no.
a few.
No.
Too few to mention. No, so far, so far I feel, well, now a couple, but when you asked, none. There were none.
Till that point.
Until that point.
Here's a question you must have enjoyed at least 24 times prior to this.
Let's see.
Hastings High School batting average 143, Star Trek softball team batting average 301.
Yeah.
What gives?
Just, a lot of extra batting practice.
Slower ball?
Slower ball. Big ball.
Uh-huh.
Softball, hardball. Yeah, I could never hit my weight. I did in Star Trek. Star Trek had a softball team that went on for like 2 or 3 years after the movie was over. It was great. Shatner only played the first season. He didn't play that much after that.
He played the whole first season?
He played most of the first season. Yeah.
As a designated runner, though.
He had a gamer. He did.
Did he have a designated runner?
He didn't have. No. He ran it out. He ran it
Didn't
out.
get on a horse? Had a horse standing by?
No.
Would hit?
No.
Jump on the horse?
No.
And gallop to first?
But he had a great kind of tousled gamer thing under the hat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He came with that, I think is what you're saying.
Probably did. Yes.
Are you at liberty in that case, since we're already there, since we've already arrived? Because our friend Chris Guest shared a story with me that you apparently shared with him.
Oh, God. Hope I remember.
But I'm a little reticent. I'll just dance around it,
Okay.
and then you'll bring us in.
All right. I hope.
Or keep us at bay.
I hope.
This took place in the hair and makeup truck on the motion picture, where the hair person who just met Bill
Right.
stood behind him and said, "So, do you want me to take this home tonight and wash it, or what do you want to do?" And Bill said, "What do you mean?" "Well, I don't know. I didn't hear what the process was. Just want to know if you were curious if you want me to wash it, or you do that, or..." I don't understand. What are you talking about?"
Take what home? Yeah.
"Take what home?" he said.
Take what home? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
You're in the truck at the time.
I was in the truck.
You're witnessing this, and you're thinking, this can't go well.
I'm thinking there are only certain people who get to talk about it, obviously, with him, and this person is not yet in that inner circle.
To be fair, wildly presumptuous to ask. Trying to be helpful.
Yeah, really.
Trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
My hat almost off to that notion.
Not a first good day at work, though. Maybe. Not.
Was that person there day two?
I don't think. I think the person was there, but not perhaps working with Mr. Shatner after that.
Not in that capacity. What
I'm
happened
not
to...
sure. I don't. I
Yeah.
have to go back and check the videotape. on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell me about singing with David Eisenhower. Also curious. Did you guys
Singing?
remain friends?
We did for a while. I was in the
Amherst College.
Amherst College. The H is silent.
Sorry?
Like the, yes, my mother always used to say, like the P in swimming.
Did she?
She said that almost every time someone said the H is silent in Amherst, and she would say, because her husband, my dad, went to Amherst. That's how I got in. I got in because my dad went there. I don't think I would have gotten in otherwise.
Seriously?
But, well, they're very, I was a very good high school student. I mean,
With that batting average, you had a lot of time to
Yeah.
study.
Yeah, and I might have gotten in, but they're very, Amherst is still, and was then particularly very kind to what they call legacies, and you had a much better chance. If it was, between you and somebody else and your father went, you were probably going to get in.
Holy crap.
I don't know if they still do it that way. I don't know how they do it.
It's on a need-to-care basis for you now. I'm sensing.
It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
But at the time, you joined a singing group, a cappella.
well, they had a triple quartet called the Zumbis.
I'll say.
Always regretted that name, but it's still called the Zumbis. Bless their hearts, they went with it. They stayed with it.
It's about commitment.
Dave Eisenhower was in the Zumbis, as was I, and he's a great guy. He actually loved music. And he loved baseball. He's an incredible baseball fan, and I love baseball. And he invited all of the Zumbis to his wedding to Julie Nixon. So we all went to David and Julie's wedding.
And?
Well, Nixon was president-elect at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because if it had been a year or two later, people might have been less willing to go. But we were all whores. We wanted to.
Of course.
I mean, it was in New York. Norman Vincent Peale officiated the wedding. What I remember was in the receiving line, there was the appropriate parents and brothers and sisters. There was Agnew, who wasn't yet looming the way he would loom in a couple of years.
What was he?
Well, he was
sans loom.
Sans loom. He was just sort of a kind of impressive-looking guy, but he didn't have the reputation that he soon acquired once he took to the office of vice president. And then there were a couple of Secret Service. There were 3 Secret Service agents, and then Nixon. And Nixon was chatting with somebody, so I was waiting in the line because he was chatting, and 3 guys. And the Secret Service then, I don't know if they still do, but they all have suits on, and they have different lapel pins. Some are circles, some are square, some are triangles. So I'm just standing there waiting, and I said to the guy, so your pin is a triangle, and why is that? And he said, because it has 3 sides.
Holy cow.
And he just looked at me like, just don't make one false move.
Yeah. Or another stupid question.
Or another stupid question. But you know, I was actually sort of curious. I mean, is it rank? No.
He thought you were mocking him, let's be clear.
I don't know.
You had hair to your shoulders at the time.
Yeah, he probably did. But I also realized that they really, really don't mess around.
Unless it's time to get the hookers.
That job.
And then...
then they do. That's right, and they're out of the country,
club.
yeah. But there was, you know, their eyes are constantly scanning, and they're looking at, yes, here was a room full of college guys who they knew were probably politically antagonistic.
And it wasn't too long before that, actually, that they lost, for the very first time in modern days, POTUS on their watch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, we're talking, what is this, the Summer of Love? Where are we?
This was 1971? It was actually 68. 68? Yes, there'd just been the election of 68.
Oh, sorry, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
So you're
68.
not, you're just shy of the Summer of Love.
Yeah, just getting into the Summer of Love.
Right.
The winter before the Summer of Love.
Talk about your winter of discontent. Yeah. So now you're studying theater. At Amherst, no age?
Yeah, at Amherst, I was an English major until senior year when they sent us a list of books that we said, you have to have read these books if you have any intention of passing English comprehensive exams. And there was no way. I had done like 3% of that reading.
You lost your intention.
So I quickly switched to drama, which was known as one of the easiest majors there. And since I was acting in plays, I thought, fine. And all you had to do to pass the drama comps was it was an oral exam, and then your thesis was you direct a play. So I thought, that's much better than actually writing a 100-page thing on Yeats.
What did you know about directing a play?
Precious little, but I thought I can do that at Amherst College, you know. And I hired a couple of friends, and we put on The Indian Wants the Bronx by Israel Horovitz. That's what we did.
And they were impressed enough to let you through.
They checked the box, and
right.
Yeah.
And but the singing, meanwhile, was quite important to you.
Yeah,
Are you writing original music yet at that point?
I never have written a lot of songs. I've written a few. I mostly just loved playing in a band. I do like to say, because I learned to play guitar at my junior year in high school, which was like 63, 64. People can't believe this, but in 63, 64, no kind of all-American kids were playing in rock and roll bands in high school. The Beatles came in, and then suddenly everybody wanted to play in a band, and I was one of them. And we were like the first band to play in our high school.
Yeah, no, just prior to you, there's doo-wop groups on the street corners, but no one's playing instruments.
And if there was a band at a Hastings High dance, it was guys from Yonkers in purple tuxedos, you know, literally, who were probably 40, you know. And so when we got up and started playing high school bands, I mean, the teachers I know all thought, oh my God, Steve Collins, he's lost his mind.
Well, they wrote you off.
They kind of did, but it was, God, I think it sort of saved my life. It felt like it saved my life.
Right.
I was a very, very shy kid. I wanted to act. I didn't really have the nerve to act, and so getting up and playing in a band kind of got me through the first line of resistance.
Yeah, it's a shared sound as opposed to the sound of your voice.
And I didn't lead. I didn't front the band in high school, so I just had minimal responsibilities.
Right.
But it was just a great way to get towards where I, somewhere in the back of my mind, wanted to get.
So when you go to New York from there to, I'm guessing, study the theater, but also music.
I didn't study music in New York.
No? Good.
I was incredibly lucky that the last play that we did at Amherst was a rock musical. At this time, in 1969 now, Summer of Love, there was one rock musical in the history of the world, Hair, and it was produced by Joe Papp, and it was now running on Broadway. We did a rock musical with, do you know who Jim Steinman is?
I know the name.
Jim Steinman wrote all the music to Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell album, and many, many other hits. Bonnie Tyler hits.
He was at school with you.
He was in our class.
Joe Papp came to see.
Joe Papp came to see this rock musical that we were
Right.
in. And I went up to Joe Papp afterwards and I said, I'm about to graduate. All I've ever wanted to do, because I grew up in Hastings, right outside New York, I just would give anything. I'll carry a spear, I'll do anything to be in Shakespeare in the Park.
You were that hip to say, I'll carry a spear?
I did say that. And he said, well, send me a letter and remind me of this conversation. He liked my performance. And a couple of weeks later, he called and he said, I've got a part for you. Don't get too excited. It's the smallest part in Shakespeare with a name. It's Valentine in Twelfth Night. He has 3 speeches. But come to New York, and he was directing it, and it was...
In the park?
In the park. So my first, I was 2 months out of school, and I had 3 lines in Shakespeare in the Park. And never was happier in my life, I think, to get a job.
I can't imagine.
$60 a week, I was like flush. It couldn't have been better.
No.
Charlie Durning was in that production as Feste, the clown.
Oh, my God.
He was not yet famous.
Now, is this what leads to 40 Carats?
That led to 40 Carats.
Because Abe Burrows and David Merrick...
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about a part of theater history.
Yeah.
For your young life to...
And I got Abe Burrows directed. 40 Carats was a, light Broadway comedy. Julie Harris did it on Broadway. And Barbara Rush did the first national company, which I was cast in. They wanted Michael Douglas. And he, I guess, kept him going. And he finally said, no, he didn't want to go out on the road. So I get the part, and Abe Burrows directed. And he directed the play, not only 4 weeks in New York every day, but he came on the road with us for the first 3 weeks.
What? Because
he was very old-fashioned. If his name was on it, if at the bottom of the thing, which it did, it said directed by Abe Burrows, he wanted it to be directed by Abe Burrows and not by some stage manager. And he was, oh my God, dinners and just time spent with him. He was just phenomenal, And,
was there any story or moment he might have shared with you that...
My favorite story about writing, we were on a bus from Cincinnati to Cleveland, because the play opened in Cincinnati, it was a big hit, it was a surprise hit, then it went to Cleveland. We're on the bus, and I've been sort of saving, because all I want to do is ask him questions about Guys and Dolls, and this guy who wrote Guys and Dolls, and How to Succeed, he co-wrote and directed. So I said, tell me a Guys and Dolls story. He said, Abe had this incredible, he's like squinted all the time. He said, toughest rewrite problem I ever had. Toughest rewrite. Sky Masterson sings My Time of Day in Guys and Dolls. And then we had about a 6-page scene, at the end of which he sings, I can do Robert Alden. I've never been in love before. Not an impersonation. It sort of also works for Alan Arkin. I've never been in love before.
That's great.
And he said, we had this 6-page scene, and it didn't work. It just stopped the play cold. So we cut it. Well, that didn't work, because now you go from Sky Masterson singing one song to Sky Masterson singing another song. And we tried a 2-page scene for, and we're in Wilmington in Philadelphia. We try a 3-page scene, a half-page scene. Nothing works. Finally, he said, I came up with the rewrite. And the way it works, and it has ever since, is he sings My Time of Day, the music keeps going underneath, and Sky Masterson says, Obadiah. And she says, what? And he says, that's my real name. I've never been in love before. That's one of the best little rewrite jobs I've ever heard. One word.
Yeah.
2 lines.
Do love that he struggled so much with it, too.
And he was, Abe was an incredible, he studied words. He loved words. He used to have well, but rehearsals, which were line rehearsals, which were designed, we had to just say the lines as fast as we could, and if you stuck an well, or a but in there was like that's not in the script. Well, excuse me, is well in the script? No, it's not. Don't say well. And he said, I've never done an well, but rehearsal that didn't take 2.5 minutes off the running time of the show.
Yeah, how could
And he was that kind of technician. He paid attention to everything. And he could give you a direction. He'd say, take 2 steps downstage, drop your head, and say the line. And I'd do this in rehearsal thinking, I don't. Okay. But he would insist on that. And the first time in front of an audience, 2 steps down, drop my head, say the line, bam, huge laugh. And in the moment of saying it, you realize, oh, it's funny. But it never felt funny in rehearsal. But he could, he could, like, you diagram a sentence, he could diagram a laugh. And if it didn't work, he didn't rest until he got that laugh and you got that laugh.
And what sort of impression for the rest of your life creatively? I mean, when you learn from that level of a master, were you open to this education at the time? I mean, did it...
Oh, I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, I think I just couldn't get enough of it. I had a natural instinct for getting laughs in front of an audience with a good script. It helps to have a good script. So to work with someone like that who could sense that you were on the edge of something and then turn it into like a yak, was unbelievable. And it makes all the cliches. I don't have to tell you, comedy's the hardest thing in the world to do, and so it takes a lot of thinking and a lot of preparation to be funny, just like anything else. It's very, very serious business.
Yeah. The National Lampoon Radio Hour is a moment in time, I'm assuming, for you. Is this meeting Christopher Guest, or is this after
Chris and I
Moon Children?
Chris and I were in the original production of Moon Children, first at Arena Stage and then on Broadway.
I wrote a note. I can only assume Chris got along best, though, with Jimmy Woods.
Oh, they actually did get along fine, and they still do. They're like yin and yang, but they get along. They make each other laugh in different ways.
So, first time meeting Chris Guest in Moon Children. Let's start there, please.
Well, we did this play by Michael Weller, brilliant play, and the cast included Edward Herrmann, James Woods, Christopher Guest, Jill Eikenberry, and her husband Michael Tucker, Robert Prosky,
Jesus,
and Henry Winkler, who was fired.
Of course. And then you
10 days before. No, I did not replace Henry. And Chris and I don't know, we just became quick friends. I think it was a combination of baseball and music.
Yeah.
And Chris makes, of course, he made me laugh just at will, as he does with everyone on the planet.
I got to the point when I was working with him where I had to do, I think I wrote about this in the book. I did. I had to do what I call forehead acting. Because when he drifts into a comedic attitude or personality, it's all in his eyes.
That's true.
It's all in his eyes.
Yeah.
Whether it's a slightly crossed, or he's staring just to the left of you while he's talking to you.
Yeah.
I couldn't look at his eyes without losing. So I would look to the center of his forehead in the scene while acting with him. It's the only way I could get through it. He owned me like I've never been owned.
Oh, please.
And to this day.
To this day, too. I mean, and usually the most dangerous place to be with Chris is on an elevator. Because if there are other people on that elevator, he'll just go, whatever it is, he knows he's got your number, and you'll start spitting and laughing, and then he's just,
what's the problem?
What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, right? Yeah.
So the play closed. Moon Children was a huge critical success. That's why it moved to Broadway. But there were no names in it, so it closed. It got good reviews and closed. And by the way, about 3 months later, Henry Winkler, who was not in the Broadway version, and who was very sad about that, calls and says, well, I got this part, in a pilot. My agent thinks I should go do it because I don't have any film. I don't even know what that means, film, because we were New York actors. We didn't care about film then. And so it's just this guy who's like rides a motorcycle and wears a leather jacket. He's got like 2 lines in the pilot.
Had a parka in the pilot, by the way. He didn't even have a leather jacket.
He didn't have the jacket.
Yeah.
And of course,
had 2 lines though.
It was happy days.
Yeah.
And
he sat at this table, by the way, a couple of years ago, Easter. We had an earthquake during the interview.
Wow.
Go to YouTube, kids. Check it out. It's pretty hilarious. Because he and I are talking, and we're refusing to acknowledge that the room is moving. And finally, it happened.
Nicest man on earth.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And
now, what year is Moon Children?
72, spring of 72, it opened on Broadway. And sometime shortly after that...
I thought that was true because I have here Macbeth at the Lincoln Center in 73, and I felt like this happened prior to that. The Moon Children.
Moon Children, yeah.
Okay.
Was Lincoln Center 73?
Yes.
With your friend.
Well, you know I'm going to want you to go there just a little bit. Because you worked with him again, of course.
Now, by the National Lampoon Radio Hour.
Yeah, let's finish.
That was so Chris, they were just starting it. Doug Kenny and these, they just had this idea that maybe it would work as a radio thing. So Chris and Chevy Chase and Belushi, it was all before Saturday Night Live, were working on it. And Chris said, come up one day, because Chris and I always did these characters, basically this person, all the time. We would do it for hours on end together, And so we conceived a sketch called The Hollywood Superstars Gay Alliance.
Gay Alliance.
Yes. And this is very early on in the days of gay rights.
72?
72.
Extremely early on.
And the idea was that Belushi was the straight man. He was interviewing Clint Eastwood, Charles Bronson, and Lee Marvin, who all of us were just talking like this. And we were outing people and outing ourselves and saying basically, well, we're such big stars that we don't have to live this lie anymore. So we're going to come forth. So,
So which one were you with this voice, Lee Marvin?
I was Lee Marvin. So we do the sketch, and it's pretty funny. It actually ends with a, because there was a long pause, because Belushi said at one point, who else? Who else is? I'm so astounded to hear these stories. Who else? And there was a long beat, and Chris said, well, I was just talking to Jay Silverheels. And there was a long beat, and then all of us just lost it. Years later, I'm at the Golden Globes.
And Jay Silverheels?
No, Lee Marvin. I'm sitting at a table with Lee Marvin. And I'm next to him, and I think this is like the worst idea of all time, is tell Lee Marvin about this. So I do. I say, we did this National Lampoon Radio Hour sketch, and I just like I just told you, and I said, and I played you, and Lee Marvin went.
Wow. And he had a sourpuss to begin with.
It was, he looked through me like, if you say one more word.
Yeah, without the pen, without the triangle pen.
So that was twice in one lifetime. That was enough of that.
You were looked through.
Yeah, but then years later, I was living in New York, and somebody went by and said, oh, I see your play is running at the Village Gate. I said, what? I said, yeah, you're listed as one of the writers on the National Lampoon class of, I don't know what, 80-something, 88, 89. So I walked by the Village Gate, and apparently they transcribed that sketch, the Hollywood Superstars Gay Alliance sketch, transcribed it and performed it live in a show, and indeed credited me as a writer, although I never...
Did you guys do it on a record or just on a live radio show?
It was on the radio show, and then they put it out on... It's been on some National Lampoon records since then.
Right.
But I guess I never saw it, but they transcribed it and performed it live.
Live theater, sure.
So strange. So that's my one off-Broadway writer's credit.
Nice.
Which I'm quite pleased about, although I never saw any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I actually want to talk a lot about your writing because I'm quite curious. So the story goes, you're at Chris and Jamie Lee's and you play a game with a book which results in you coming up with the first line of your first book.
Yes.
But, if I may, Macbeth, Lincoln Center, 1973 with Christopher Walken. I'm going to need just a little bit of that.
Oh, man.
First of all, your first time on the boards at the Lincoln Center at that point?
At Lincoln's first and only time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's on a magnitude not to be confused by anyone.
That was a pretty big deal. Joe had not cast me in a play. I'd been the runner-up for a part in another musical written by Jim Steinman. Mm-hmm. There's a thread here, called More Than You Deserve, and booked by Michael Weller, who wrote Moon Children. I'd read for the lead role, didn't get it.
More Than You Deserve?
More Than You Deserve.
I'm going to have to remember that because the first 6 names come to mind. Pauly Shore. Sorry.
More Than You Deserve. I didn't get the part. Fred Gwynne got the part. It was between me and Fred Gwynne.
Because you guys are constantly up
all
for
the
things.
time. Oh, me, Fred.
How close are you to Herman Munster?
Well,
ridiculous.
Please.
Yeah.
The other.
Car 54. Nice.
So I didn't get the part. Fred got the part. But the last performance, Fred got a commercial, and he had to be out of town. And Joe said, "Would you do the last performance?" So I did, and I rehearsed like it was my Broadway opening because I thought I got one shot at it. And after the show, Joe said, "I owe you one. You were great."
How nice is that?
And then about 3 or 4, I don't know, 3 months later, he calls me and he says, literally, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm reading the paper and just reading a review of a play that opened at the Public Theater." He said, "Can you come over and join us in rehearsals for, is it all right, the Scottish play?" We call it the Scottish. It's all right. We're not backstage. I can say Macbeth. Jim Keach had to drop out. We'd just been in rehearsal for 3 days. Come in and play Macduff. Okay.
Yep.
I literally put down the paper, walked over to the Public Theater. I'm in rehearsal, and there's young Walken. I guess he was about 30, 32. And yes, that was the first. I've worked with him twice on stage. No more wonderful or strange human being ever. Such a sweet man. That production was infamous because Joe Papp came to it about 3 days before we opened and hated it so much that he said, "I'm not opening this."
3 days.
3 days before, but it had sold so many tickets because it was the Scottish play in Lincoln Center that we ran for about 100 performances, never having opened for the critics, with the word out, Joe hated this so much that he wouldn't open it for the critics, so everyone thought it was just horrible. And it was really, I hate to say it, but it was, it got quite good actually, and Walken was great. Peter Weller was in that production, John Hurd, Carol Kane.
Wow.
And it was just sort of, Joe was in a bad mood or something. I mean, because he did a lot of bad Shakespeare, so the idea that this was so bad it couldn't open,
That is a bit
so
frightening.
of course, with low expectations, everybody came and said, "Hey, this is really good."
You did Three Sisters with Walken later.
I did Three Sisters with Walken at Williamstown. And that was when I saw, because he was playing Vershinin, and he got a lot of laughs. That was, in that play, he would get a laugh. I mean, a big, huge laugh. And the next night, I'd think, "Oh, this will be fun. I can't wait for him to go for that again." Because it's fun when anybody on stage gets a big laugh. And he wouldn't do anything even remotely like what he did the night before.
Wow.
He would give up the laugh completely. It was like it had never happened. And you'd think, God, how amazing. And then I swore 3 seconds later he'd do something else and get a huge laugh that he would never go for again. I never, ever have known an actor less possessive of his laughs, because actors are usually really possessive.
Or the preciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get a big laugh in a play, you kind of want to get it 8 times a week, and you sort of want everybody to help you get it if do their part. He has none of that attachment. I don't know whether it's because he doesn't remember. I don't know.
That is wild.
But he when he was a chorus boy, he worked with Beatrice Lillie, and he said to me, in a musical called High Spirits, a musical version of Noel Coward's Blithe Spirit. Mm. And he said she did that. He said, Beatrice Lillie never got the same laugh twice. And I always thought that I can't do him. I always thought that was so brave, And so I guess it affected me, And I guess it did, because he's like the bravest guy on stage I've ever seen, whether I'm in the audience or on stage with him.
I saw The Behanding in Spokane a few years ago, the McDonough piece, where he's absurd and brilliant, and a couple days ago we pre-captured the Alan Arkin interview, and Alan just finished a movie with Walken and Pacino, where the three of them play sort of retired mobsters.
This is a movie you have to do.
And I said,
all
did
yourself.
you do the movie just so I have 15 new minutes in my stand-up
Oh
act?
my God.
And I said, was there a crazy-off between Pacino and Walken? And he said, sweetest guy in the world, very low-key, very centered, very quiet, and
One of the greatest moments in my life, I didn't know it at the time, was Chris came to see me in a play. I was in a play at the Brooklyn Academy of Music that was a big hit called The New York Idea with Blythe Danner. And we went out afterwards with a couple of people, and Chris had just shot The Deer Hunter, but it wasn't out yet.
Oh my.
And he said, And he felt like he hadn't done a play. He said, I don't know how you did that. He said to me, how did you do that? I don't know how you did that.
Wow.
Because I was playing a real crazy character part. I was 28 and I was playing a 40-year-old fat guy. And it was fun.
Yeah.
And I said to him, what are you kidding me? You just haven't been on the stage for a year. He said, no.
Is that what that is? Because, you know, I came from stand-up comedy. I did not come from a theater background at all. I had fantasies of being an actor. I went on hundreds of auditions till I was comfortable in the room auditioning. And I learned technique and style from the greats that I was working with.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to have J.T. Walsh as an early mentor.
Oh, boy.
On 4 months working on A Few Good Men, who saw what I was doing, and I confessed to him that I was not only out of my league with that ridiculous cast, but also in terms of...
But you weren't. You just felt like you were.
The talent, well, of course. The talent of and experience of acting. And he pointed out, you know, what you're doing is a technique that we study. It's called less is more. What you need to learn is the other part of less is more, which is nothing is best. If you can do nothing in a scene and ultimately steal focus because of it,
Yeah.
that's
Took me way too long to learn that.
nirvana.
but I
Turns
feel
out
like-
it's all I can do is nothing or less.
It's riveting. It's, you know, when people do nothing but they're thinking the thoughts of the character, they're riveting.
Alan
And I-
Arkin spoke about Stephen Hill having that for him.
Stephen Hill.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Stephen Hill did maybe the greatest scene to me in the history of film in Running on Empty. This is a scene with him and Christine Lottie, father and daughter, and they haven't, you know, she was a weather person and she'd gone underground and she hadn't seen her father for like 20 years and she hated him, but she now needs money so that she can send her son to college. And they meet in a restaurant because she's wanted, and it's the most amazing scene I've ever seen. It's really, I think, the greatest scene if I had to pick one scene I've seen on film
It's an acting clinic.
both of them. He could do nothing, just show up and do nothing except trust. And I so didn't that's why when you mentioned, you know, Star Trek movie, and I'm not being disingenuous, I can't watch myself for 2 seconds in it because I acted every moment of it. And it just, to this, of course, it's the thing that's on the most. Every week someone says, oh, I saw you in Star Trek. And every week I go, oh, okay, yeah, okay. Because I didn't get it.
Right.
I didn't have
You caught
any
yourself acting.
Oh.
Is there anything worse?
Oh. I was about 35 before I studied with a teacher in New York named Harold Guskin, who's a great coach who works with Kevin Kline on everything, Gandolfini. But I was 35, and Harold, the first time I read with him in his living room, I was getting ready to do a very short-lived series called Tattingers in New York with Blythe Danner. And I read the first line, and he says, whoa, 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 why are you working so hard?
Oy.
And it was like, what? But he taught me about the less is more, less,
Throw it away.
less, and less.
Yeah.
And I realized I'd been doing it backwards for 15 years and somehow getting paid for it.
Well, I wonder, I started on this tangent, by the way, with no theater training. So the thing about Walken not being on stage for a year and watching your performance and can't figure out the puzzle, how the pieces could possibly fit, and your immediate response, I don't think was being humble, but truthful, which is, well, you haven't been on the boards anymore.
Yeah, and you feel like that when you haven't done it for a while. You think, I'm sure I've forgotten how to do it.
Right. But I wonder if that being your basic training, in all sense of the term, where you have to reach the back row, and you have to enunciate and articulate every moment.
Yeah.
Where less is more, very hard to pull off on stage. Yeah.
So hard, but so thrilling when it works. So thrilling.
I can't imagine.
It's, you know, the last thing I did on stage was, now it's 4 years ago, I got to do Spamalot on Broadway for
King
a few
Arthur, I
months.
noticed that.
And I only got to work with, because I was a replacement, I only got to work with Mike Nichols for a few days, but oh my God, you know.
Yeah.
So doing that play, it's just what you just said. You're doing it full out. I mean, you have to use every bit of muscle and voice you have, and yet do nothing at the same time. And it's such a, I don't know, it makes no sense, but that's what you do. I mean, you're using all the voice you've got, and at the same time trying to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And that is the trick of being on stage.
Right.
And even in a little theater, even if it's one of these 50-seat theaters out here, it's not automatic. You have to, it takes more energy to hit people even 20 feet away.
Yeah.
And yet seem like you're doing nothing. I still don't know how it works.
The hardest thing for me on stage as a stand-up was when I made the transition to telling truthful anecdotes that involved the impersonations as a way to do the impersonations.
Right.
But suddenly I had a run-in with Christopher Walken, and I had met William Shatner, and I had all these true life anecdotes. So the hardest transition for me was doing those and sensing and hearing that the audience was listening as opposed to laughing.
Yeah.
And so initially it just represented silence, which is the death of a stand-up comedian. As you're trained, I can still hear a very, very, very young Jay Leno in my head saying, where's the joke? Get to the joke. So telling those stories and letting them be heard and felt before I got to the ultimate laugh moments, which were built in. But there's passages where the audience is what I wanted them to be.
You want them to be silent, so that you control the end of the silence.
Right.
That's the...
But living in that silence for a comedian, but for a stage actor, I would think that's the majority, so that in fact when you
even in a comedy, that's
when
the
you
majority.
step on, you cross over that moment and you find a laugh, you want to repeat it eight shows a week. Because it is about the audience listening. And sometimes you'll come off stage as a comedian, you'll say, you know, the crowd someone will come backstage. It's always when you take the temperature of the people who are in the audience, your friends, and they come backstage and they go, great show. And when you have to go, yeah, no, the crowd was stiff. They were just horrible. Because you're just comparing them to every other performance. But in that moment where you realize, oh, shit, they're listening. They actually are riveted. So on stage, do you just base it on whether or not it's a standing ovation? I mean, how do you know? I mean,
the same thing that, you know, I mean, there's like, we all have laugh-o-meters in our head. So that laugh is like, you know, it was 99% last night, and tonight it's 88%. And then it might go, you know, you can, some of it's a matinee, it's an older audience, it's less full house, it can be those things.
It's an energy.
But it's just also, you didn't execute it well. You weren't honest enough. You know, Richard Dreyfuss once said the greatest thing, and it's an all-night bull session at Williamstown, and he said, whether it's take 15 of a scene or the 100th performance of a play, our job is to create and not recreate. And I thought, before, I didn't know how to do it, but I knew that he was right. So even if you do it exactly the same way, you don't do it by trying to do it exactly the same way. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And for years, I actually thought, for years on stage, I thought, make a movie of my performance and go out and repeat it every night. And all that you do if you do that is fall a little bit shorter every time of what you originally did.
Right.
And it's a fool's way to act, but I did it for a long time.
Sure.
And then because the other thing is so, it's hard enough to get on stage, you know. You want to sort of think, well, I'll get on and I'll do this and it'll be fine, but you can't. You have to only sort of to a certain extent know what you're going to do and to a certain extent not.
Yeah. And also, what is the point otherwise?
And what you said about silence is true. I mean, they don't laugh if they haven't been listening. That you know. You can't make an audience laugh if they weren't listening to every word you said. It just simply cannot happen.
Oh, I'm acutely aware. Like, I'll be in the middle of a story knowing that a very important moment for them to hear is coming up, so that the laugh pays off at the apex later.
Right. Right.
And in that moment, someone will stand up from the front and go to the restroom. And because they're down front, they pull focus, even for a nanosecond. Everyone's going, "What is that? Is that person have a gun?" Oh, they're just going to the bathroom.
That's right.
You know,
Yep.
it's so subtle.
Or a cough, or really at the wrong time, anything.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's going to take that much off your eventual payoff.
Yeah.
And you know it at the time.
You feel it in the. We take live questions from our
Cool.
audience. When Jamie, do you have any new ones you want to send over?
Jamie? Oh, Jamie. She doesn't.
It's still
apparently
weird.
not.
Still weird, and still
strange.
funny, if I may.
And you may.
Yep. And threes.
If you mayn't, who may?
Right. I foolishly put my name in the title so I couldn't be replaced.
Exactly.
So we have these live questions sent to us by Elaine Ewing, our social media maven, who we went online, went on the Twitter, and she on the Facebook, and gathered some questions for you. These are specifically designed to you, for you, by your fans.
Handcrafted.
Handcrafted indeed.
Okay.
We do a thing on the show called the Tweet 5.
T5.
What?
T5. T5 forever now.
This or that style of rapid
Never
fire.
get better than that.
Dave Koechner?
Can't get better than that.
No, well, listen, he's mostly
Don't
monkey.
ever replace that.
He's mostly
please.
monkey. No, he can't. So, Coke or Pepsi, no correct answer. Designed specifically for you. This one by Michael Elliott Bestich.
Okay.
Theater or film?
Film.
Writing or music?
Music.
Music or acting?
Music.
Acting or writing?
Writing.
Funny answer would have been music.
Damn.
Wholesome character role or shady character?
Oh, shady character.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I'm quite curious about the writing. So let's have a little fun with you're at a party at Christopher Guest and Jamie Lee Fitness, and was it a game you guys had played before where you pulled the book off and say everyone write the first?
We were playing the dictionary game.
Sure.
And it kind of wasn't gaining traction at the party, and Jamie got frustrated. And she said, "All right, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to play the novel game." Everybody goes, "What's that?" Well, the novel game's kind of like the dictionary game, but I'm going to pick a book off the shelf. We have honor system. It has to be a book that no one's read, and we will all write the first line of that novel, and I'll write the actual first line of the novel, and we'll read them all, and you want to get people to vote for yours. So she pulls the Sidney Sheldon book off the shelf, which had just come out, so nobody had read it. I don't know that. And
Stranger in the Mirror?
I don't know which one it was.
All right.
Don't know which one, the other side of the mountain?
Sure.
Let's just go through them all, but I'm not going to remember. So I write a sentence. I had read one of them. I think was that what it's called, The Other Side of the Mountain?
Sure. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, why wouldn't it be? You did the audio version, I think.
Doing it now.
So I wrote, what I thought was a pretty good Sidney Sheldon kind of pot-boilery first line,
Which,
and
of course,
everybody voted for it.
Everyone?
Majority. It was like all but one or two, and I fooled them all. So that's how you win the game. Is you want it. And a couple weeks later, I'd written a play the year before. The play had been produced at Williamstown quite successfully, and I was starting work on another play. But I went back to work, and this sentence that I'd written, because everyone at the party went, "Ooh." When I read my sentence, everyone, "Oh, that's got to be Sidney Sheldon."
Which, of course, you remember the sentence to this day.
I do. I think I still do.
And
you want to hear the sentence? The sentence goes, "Making better eye contact with her image in the mirror than she did with most people in life. Nicolette Stallings capped her lipstick, dropped it into her purse, and whispered aloud to no one in particular, 'Perfect.'"
And indeed,
so that stuck in my head.
It is.
And a couple weeks later, I thought, I put the play. I wrote it, and then I started writing. And I kept writing. I wrote about 15 pages, which is a massive amount to write in one day.
Boy, is it.
And I took it home and showed it to my wife, and she said, "This is really good. You should keep going." So I wrote like another 30 pages, and I wasn't even beginning. I realized this isn't even a short story so I just kept writing, and thought, I'll see where this goes. And I wrote about 100 and some pages, and I got a job, you know, and I got another job. So like 9 months go by, and all I'm thinking in my head is, God, I want to get back to my book, which I called Eye Contact. Which is a wonderful way to be about writing. Oh, I can't wait to get back.
Yes.
Because two things happen. One is it makes you want to write more, and the other is you get acting jobs.
Yes.
Because you don't care about the acting jobs, which is when they want to give you acting jobs.
Yep.
Don't know why that is, but...
You want to book a job, go on a vacation.
Go on a vacation.
Plan a vacation.
Buy a season ticket, do something.
Yeah.
Buy the tickets, buy a non-refundable ticket.
Uh-huh.
And so I just kept writing, and only a handful of people read it while I was writing it, but it was a sort of Cinderella thing. I finished it. A friend read it, said, you should send it to my agent in New York. I met with that agent in 2 weeks. He said, I'm going to sell this in 2 weeks. We'll have an auction. He did. He got like 3 publishers interested, and they bid against each other. And I sold it. And it actually became a bestseller. I was booked on the Larry King show.
Sure.
I had done Regis and Kathy Lee and Good Morning America, and the thing was selling like hotcakes. And that Friday, I was on Larry King. That Thursday was the O.J. chase. I was bumped from Larry King.
And everything else.
And my agent called me, my editor called me on Monday and said, if you'd done Larry King, you would have been on the New York Times bestseller list. It was that close.
Right.
Because it was a guarantee of 15 or 20,000 books sold, which that would have put me over. So O.J. and Larry King conspired against me. Mm. And I'm still working on proving that, but I think I have a pretty good case.
I think it's airtight, if I may.
Yeah.
But I do love your experience of I can't wait to write again.
Yeah.
And getting lost, and the next thing you know, you've written 15 pages. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
That's been similar to my experience when writing fiction. That you just want to get back to that world you've created that no one else really knows about.
Absolutely.
And
nobody knows how much of it is true and how much of it is made up, which is wonderful.
Right.
It's really important.
Yeah.
And only you really know and have to know.
Yeah. And that's pretty great.
It's very therapeutic that way, too. But yeah, and it's amazing how it takes the focus off everything. The day I sold the book, and I couldn't believe that they were going to pay me all this money, and I had a great editor at Bantam Books. She died. Her name was Beverly Lewis. She was great. The next day, I get a call from the Manhattan Theater Club. You sing, don't you? I said, well, I do sing. I've sung I haven't used it a lot in my work, but... Well, we just lost James Naughton, and we're doing this Sondheim musical called Putting It Together with Julie Andrews. Could you come in and sing for Sondheim tomorrow? I'm like, okay, what would I sing? Suggest a couple of songs. They said, we've seen like 40 actors in the last day. We can't find anybody that works. So I'm aware that Julie is about 15 years older than I am, but I can play older, and she looks younger. But the main thing is I've just sold my book. And frankly, I don't care that much.
Right.
I go in, even though Stephen Sondheim is my god, and I had met him a year before at a party and told him how wonderful I thought he was, at which point he said, thank you, and turned away. And I felt like a complete schmuck. And I thought, I'll never work for Stephen Sondheim.
Well, the good news is he would never remember that moment.
I told him about it later. But,
of course you did.
But, so I go in and I sing for Stephen Sondheim, and I do the thing that I've never done before in a singing audition in my life, which is sing as well as I can. Because singing auditions are just the most impossible thing in the world. I don't know how people do them. And I never did them well, and because I have a good voice but not a big voice, I would, and I wouldn't get most singing things that I had to audition for. This day, I just sold my book. There's Stephen Sondheim this far away. I'm singing Sorry Grateful from Company, sort of practically right into his eyes. And I see him going.
Smiling.
And I think, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this.
By the way, you're thinking that while you're singing?
when I saw
Probably.
him smile,
Yeah.
I was. I thought,
Isn't that funny how the brain...
but it also was, if I don't get this, on Monday I go to work doing my rewrites for my editor at Bantam Books on my first novel. I don't care if I don't. I mean, I do, but I really don't care.
Yeah.
And of course, they offer me the role in the room, which never
No.
never happens.
Unheard of.
I've been offered 3 roles in the room, and I didn't get 2 of them. It's true. Twice, the director said, "You're it, make the deal," and I didn't get either one. They changed their mind. This time, they didn't change their mind. And I did work with Sondheim, and I did tell him that story. And he said, "I can't take a compliment. I don't know how to take a compliment. So whenever anybody compliments me, I just..."
Yeah. Isn't that all of us, though?
Yeah.
We
yeah.
want it from a group, not from an individual.
Yeah, it's true. That's yes.
I hadn't thought that thought till now,
That's
but I like
a good
it.
thought.
Somebody
That's a
write
good
that
thought.
down.
Yeah,
It's why I'm on Twitter, actually,
That's good.
because I need love from total strangers.
Yes,
It's a true
well-
narcissism.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of which, I've got a question to you from
okay.
from the Twitterverse.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like playing a super villain and working with the incomparable Jason Antoon? No, she wrote Julie Benz. Jason Antoon's a dear friend.
But I love Jason Antoon.
Yeah.
Julie Benz, it's funny, I tweeted with Julie Benz 15 minutes before walking in here.
What?
And, well, I loved working with Julie Benz. She's so delightful and so easy to look at. I mean, just so really kind of crazily attractive, but also just a good person, and she works hard. And she's one of those people who can, I think, who seems to be able to go from 0 to 60 emotionally with she just chatting, and then all of a sudden, tears. I don't know how people do that.
I don't get that.
I have to work. I have to, what I have to do to get there. And there are a couple of, Julie is one of them, who just have the ability. I think it's a female thing. I don't know. But she was absolutely
Are you
a
suggesting
delight.
that women are slightly more in touch with their feelings than men? Because that would be weird.
That would be strange. That's never been suggested before.
Or proven.
This is new ground we're covering here.
Or proven on a daily or morning basis.
It can't be proved, I
Nope.
guess. But
Okay. When you finish the process of writing what becomes a best-selling novel, and you're holding it in your hand, and it's a book with a cover and a thing, and it's in the stores, and you're on talk shows before OJ decides to cut a rug, as it were. At what point does it enter your mind, I've got to do this again? Because, much has been said and written about the brain between project of success number 1 and the follow-up, be it a sophomore album from a band or,
Yep. I wanted to do it. What I found when I was writing first the play that I wrote, and then also the first novel, was that I was just the closest thing I'd ever experienced to happy on a daily basis. That somehow finishing a day's work writing made me feel like I'd done something that, as satisfying as being in a good play is, you still have to do it the next day, and you have to do it the next day and the next day. And it seems so ephemeral, the satisfaction, even when you get a great compliment from someone that you or standing ovation or whatever. There's something about writing that just, and by the way, it was Chris Guest who suggested to me that I write seriously. He said to me, if you write something, if you write every day, after about a month you'll have a first draft of something, and then you can rewrite it. And I remember thinking, I could do that.
Yeah.
And that was how I wrote the play, and then likewise the book.
Do you treat that first draft like a skeleton? Like, I just need to puke this out? Because it's all about rewriting.
It's all about rewriting. I sort of, yes, I keep rewriting every day so that I write, before I can start writing anew, I read like the last 2 days' stuff, rewrite it quite extensively.
See, now that amazes me.
And then get up to the present and then move forward.
Because
I have
my
to do that.
experience is, I started that way, writing fiction. I would rewrite what I was reading from the day before. and I realized I was spending every other day rewriting and not writing something new, and then catching up.
Yeah.
So if I said, okay, it's all going to be done in the rewrites, all of it, the magic's in the rewrites, the first draft is just literally getting the story and structure and characters the fuck out of my head. When I get to the fork in the road, I will just say right or left like a coin toss. It won't matter. None of it matters. What matters is what happens in the rewrite. And I found, for me, it was the only way to get through the first draft in, by the way, 3 weeks. Nothing.
Wow.
Fast. Well, first of all,
that's
12-hour sessions, I got to remind myself to eat.
Yes.
If, like you said, you get lost in it.
You do.
Go there.
And I like to work for long chunks of time, too.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a major writer and successful writer of mysteries. I'm not going to mention his name but he's very successful. He's written like 50 novels, and they all debut on the Times bestseller list. He writes 1 hour a day. I find when I'm writing 1 hour, I barely gotten started.
Just warming up.
You're
clearly wrong. He's done 50.
Yeah. But I also like your idea, and I because I think there is something to be said to just, and he, by the way, does that. I mean, he edits a little bit from yesterday only and then moves ahead. But he doesn't, he then turns it over to his editor and says, you fix it. And he's not precious about rewriting.
Right.
He's such a great storyteller that he doesn't have to be.
Wow. Because to me, the joy was in the rewriting. And when I talked to Chris Guest, the joy for him, as you well know, is one of his dear friends, is in the editing. The final rewrite as a filmmaker.
Yeah, Chris edits for months and months. At a time when people are editing movies in a week,
right.
He doesn't edit while the movie's being shot, which is very smart. I don't know. I love rewriting too, and I just I don't know that I could just write straight ahead because I don't know where I'm going often, and maybe I know what the next moment is. I like to write. I like to finish a day and think, ooh, I can't wait to do just the next moment because I don't know what it's going to be, but he's going to say this, and that's all I need to propel me to the next day. If I don't have that, it's very, very hard to go on. But the other thing I found is that the days where you're writing and it just flows and it feels so brilliant, and the days when you're sitting there going, I don't have any, and you're just sort of plodding through it, yield about the same results. In terms of finished product, the brilliant day when you go back and rewrite, go, that wasn't so brilliant. You cross out, cross out, cross out. And the day that just where it was just really, really, really drudgery yields some good stuff because it was so hard. I don't know. But the subjective experience really isn't important, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You just do it. That's the other thing. When I wrote a book, and I'm sure you found this, actors particularly, I think every actor's fantasy must be to write a book because everyone said, oh my God, you write a novel. How did you do that? Oh my God. And I said, I don't know. I just wrote every day. That's the main thing. You don't miss a day. Maybe one day a week you can take off. But if you sit down and write every day, Chris was right.
At the end of the month?
At the end of a month.
There's a thing.
There's a thing there.
It's a stack of pages.
It's yeah.
Or in our case, a doc on the desktop.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's pretty wonderful.
This Twitter question comes from @LizzieK.Gans. Which is your greater love, theater or TV? If money weren't a consideration, would you do more theater?
That's a good question.
Isn't it, though?
It's true that theater pays so abysmally. I mean, a big Broadway show pays well, but everything else.
Well, let's break it down to the. TV is the last great paycheck.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of the top 10 people who can open a film.
Right.
So let's get into the creative. Try to do something new on stage. Experiences you've had in these performances over the years, versus the schedule that rules a 1 hour drama. In your case, 9 years.
11.
Was it 11?
It was 11.
Even better. 11
should have been 10
years.
But it was 11.
You know what I think I might have been right? It should have been 9.
Yeah, maybe. Actually, 9 probably would have been perfect.
But the schedule at some point dictates almost everything.
Yep.
how much
Yep.
time you have to run it before you shoot it in the moment, and so on. So the rewards creatively, I would imagine, start to diminish. I mean, let's compare that to the writing schedule that you just spoke of. I'm
Yeah.
going to write every day,
Yeah.
but you are completely and utterly in your own world. And
That's the thing.
yeah,
Writing is, to me, it's the perfect antidote to acting. As actors, we're telling, we have one piece, even if you're the star of the show, other people completely control the final product. And as a writer, you control the audience's entire experience, just the same with stand-up, same appeal, I'm sure. To me, there's a tremendous satisfaction that I've found only in recent years in acting and television, which is that I can do it. I can, more often than not, do my best work on that schedule. Now, another actor might be able to do better work with more hours, but I can actually come up with some pretty good stuff like that. Not like that. I will work like crazy, but it's just that when you get on the set, you're only going to have this much time to do it.
right.
And when it's your close-up, you're not going to have hours and hours. You're going to have 20 minutes, maybe 2 or 3 takes ideally. If you screw up, they'll keep going, but
That's just because you flubbed the line. That's not
they
because
need
didn't.
you to get it and get it well. And
They're not aware of what you think is a good or bad performance.
absolutely. And my biggest enemy, because I'm fairly, I don't know what the word is. My biggest enemy is a director who thinks that the take that I just did is an 8 on a 10 scale, and I know it was a 4. But he goes, well, no, it's good. It's really great. Let's move on. That's hard. So
A director who, by the way, is not in the director's medium,
that's right.
who come and go on a weekly basis.
And that's hugely important. Audiences don't realize that the director of a television show is not creatively anywhere near as important, usually.
Or connected.
Yeah,
I mean,
usually.
they care.
There are
some more
exceptions,
than others.
and actually the best thing I find is, and I just had this situation, is when the director is also a producer on the show.
Right.
Because then they creatively control the show. That's great. But yeah, when there's the guy who just comes in every week, or and is never going to come back, you probably understand the whole show better than they do.
And what efforts, because of that, did you make to affect everyone's happiness and creative soup when you directed episodes of Seventh Heaven?
Well, it is a wonderful time to practice what you've preached in your mind, at least, to treat actors the way actors need to be treated.
And the schedule and the time that they need.
Yeah, and it's sort of a game you have to play where you pretend you always are pretending you have more time than you do, and it's really acting. So it is the end of the day, and the actors on the show know I'm sorry.
Can you get me out by 4?
Yeah, or they're saying, I know you're under pressure, and I want to do this, but I'm having trouble. And you just no, it's fine, and you're lying your ass off because they're right. But it is great to be able to, particularly in the case of Seventh Heaven, you've gotten to know these actors, you see what they respond to and what they don't respond to, and it's so much fun to be able to direct them from what you've actually learned about them. That's, it's any sort of ensemble is like that. And it's also fun to be the last, the person whose taste says, no, that was good, that's, and I thought that was funny, or I thought that was true, or I thought that was real. It was also very humbling to direct and tell there's this wonderful actor on Seventh Heaven. They were all wonderful actors, but there's this kid named David Gallagher who's not a kid anymore. And he's a wonderful actor, and he was 11 when we started, and he was incapable of a false move.
Yep.
And the first time I directed, he did a take, and we had those, in those days, we had those 9-inch monitors, which flickered.
Sure.
Perversely. As soon as the camera was rolling, the monitor flickered. So you're getting a terrible image. Now they have beautiful crystalline 32-inch monitors that are...
Or an iPad.
Or an iPad. But I asked, so David does a take, and I went up to him, I said, David, and I wanted to direct him, and I gave him some notes, and he was like, really? Okay, yeah, okay, I'll try. He did it, and I said, great, print. I looked at the dailies. His first take was perfect.
So much better. We
so didn't need my wisdom at all. He was perfect, and I couldn't see it in the monitor.
Right.
But I think it's also the directors, like the star of a show, director sets the tone for a set. If if the directors and the star is not an asshole, then no one can be an asshole on the set, and that's important too.
You fit those shoes well. You directed theater. You directed TV.
Yeah, I think I'm. I mean, I love it. It's also really, 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 really hard. There's so much anxiety involved. I don't know that I'm wired. As much as I theoretically love directing, the calm and cool it takes to direct is a daily struggle for me. I'd much rather direct something I'm not acting in. I don't know how, because directing Seventh Heaven, you feel like you're insane when you're in the makeup trailer and people are coming in and asking about the set and the lighting, and you know you have the schedule, and meanwhile you're learning lines. It's like you don't want to be doing both things at the same time. So I would like to direct some more and not be in whatever it is I'm directing.
Pretty amazing. At Aaron Harlow, one of our true fans, how is it working on a show with Christian overtones in such a non-Christian Hollywood? Very good question. Because I read somewhere in the research that one of our producers, J-Mac, was kind enough to put together that there was, or at least this is how you answered the question in the interview, there was a personal connection for you in terms of being on a show that has a faith. And also having your own, and having not had the opportunity prior to that to involve church and state, as it were.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing timing. I had just a couple of years before started going to church again for the first time since I walked away from it when I was about 12. And it was very meaningful to me in a very sort of quiet, private way. And then along comes this show. And I have to say, people who didn't watch Seventh Heaven don't really know that it wasn't a very religious show.
Well, of course.
Even in the pilot, it wasn't even revealed that my character was a minister till about halfway through. But I loved that part of it, and I thought Brenda Hampton did a wonderful job writing it in very subtle ways that allowed me, there were two things about the show that were, it was about being a parent and about having faith. And so getting to draw on that was really, really exciting. And I know it moved people. What was also true, to answer the question, was Hollywood couldn't have cared less.
Right.
I mean, Seventh Heaven had zero profile in the Hollywood community.
No heat, no buzz. Just
None.
Loyal fans.
Just loyal fans.
Right.
And Richard Thomas told me that. I did an episode of The Waltons in 1975, and I ran into Richard somewhere along the first season of Seventh Heaven. It was still struggling, and he said, by the way, give it up. You will never, you won't get the magazine covers. And it's true, we were on the cover of TV Guide once in 11 years. But just like you said, the fans will take you to their hearts, and that's really all that matters. So I knew when I would go out in public what it was meaning to people, how much it was actually affecting and touching people, and that was just really wonderful.
It's all you want when you're on stage in a play. It's all you want when you sit alone writing. You
yes,
just want to connect with fans.
It is. It's hard when you realize that it made no dent. I remember an agent saying to me, frankly, after the show, after Seventh Heaven ended, saying, frankly, from a casting point of view, it's almost a negative impact. Because people they just have no interest in family.
It's remarkable that an agent can say that. And in the moment, that sort of honesty is a breath of fresh air from an agent whose job it is, hello, he lied. So goes the name of the great book.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's also something that only an agent could say.
Yes, it's true.
Because if a friend says it, then they're just being honest and dickish.
And unsupportive,
An agent is saying, from a business standpoint,
Yeah, we got. Yeah, it's classic.
We got to reinvent you now.
Got to get you a bat. Yeah.
Sorry, we had these great regular paychecks for 11 years, practically unheard of.
And the funny thing is too that when I did Seventh Heaven before it, I had done a string of which happens when you're an aging white guy. You play the philandering husband or the corrupt businessman or senator, And I thought, I'll never get to play a good guy again. You know, it's just the way it is. Harrison Ford is going to get to play all the good guys, and the rest of us will all. And then Seventh Heaven comes along, and then people go, I don't know if you can play a bad guy. You know?
You had a swashbuckling Harrison Ford moment, didn't
Yes.
you?
Overacted, but yes, I did.
Maybe one of the greatest titles of a television show? Something involving a golden monkey?
Tales of the Gold Monkey.
Uh-huh.
It was the better title, which was the original title, was Tales of the Brass Monkey.
See, I got to go with brass. Gold monkey, I don't trust.
Seagram's made a drink called the Brass Monkey, and they sued Universal saying you can't use that title. So we changed it to Gold Monkey, which Brass Monkey was just better.
So there was a drink out there that you could get in a bar called a Brass Monkey, and
Yeah.
Seagram's laid claim to a drink? Wow.
Yeah.
And you said Universal, which I believe Seagram's bought?
I think that's true, but
Interesting.
not soon enough.
Not
soon
right.
enough. That's true.
I got to get a little bit of Billy Wilder. I'm supposed to do my first play. I'm still trying to get out of it. At Gary Marshall's wonderful Falcon Theater, which is the story of when Billy Wilder and Raymond Chandler wrote Double Indemnity.
Oh my God!
In Billy's office at Paramount, and it's a great, exceptional piece that I did a stage reading of it. That was pretty fun. So when I saw
Which part did you play?
Billy Wilder. So when I saw in your dossier, Fedora, I got to have a little bit of studying at the feet of
Billy Wilder. I mean, Fedora was not one of his major works, but I had done All the President's Men,
right,
and I didn't understand at that time that I was sort of hot. You know, I didn't understand that, and I got offered this part in Fedora. That was William Holden was starring in it, and it was to play his character as a young man in a flashback sequence, and it was a Hollywood thing. He was a producer, but in the flashback sequence, he was a young second assistant film director on a big Garbo like Fedora was sort of like Garbo, and there was this sequence where he has an affair with the star. So I was cast sight unseen. He saw my picture, and later he said to me, "You have the dimple." He looked at. He showed me a picture of Holden. He said, "See, you're going to have this when you're older," and it's true. This, whatever this dimple line is, was, I guess, what he saw. And
you were hired because of a dimple.
I was hired because of a dimple, and and because of All the President's Men. And I went to Germany. Best job I ever had, because the salary was $7,500, which was the equivalent to me of $40 kajillion.
And
$1,500 a week per diem.
And shooting in Europe.
And shooting in Munich.
With a lot of time off.
It was supposed to be 1 week, but I arrived there. They sent me over to the studio to get my hair cut, because Billy wanted me to look like Holden, had the haircut that Holden had in Style Like 17.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you did not remind me of William Holden until just then, when you put your head down, put your hands up, and said his name. And I swear to you, I just saw Holden. That's crazy.
The producer said, "I'm in the studio. I just got my hair cut." He said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, I thought I was starting shooting tomorrow." He said, "Oh, no, we changed the schedule. You don't start till next week." So now my 1 week job is a 2 week job. Now the $7,500 is $15,000, and then it ended up being 4 weeks.
And also per diem, double.
And also the per diem, which I could have easily lived on for years.
Right.
It was the thing that I remember about Billy was that he directed on the set. It was like he was doing stand-up, a quiet sort of stand-up, but he included the whole set almost all the time.
He was performing, in the interview, you said, kind of for the crew.
Yes.
Which Martha Keller
just hated him. That was the sense that I got.
Yeah, because she had a right to, by the way.
Yeah. Well, she had just done Bobby Deerfield with Al Pacino, and they were...
Couldn't get enough of that film, by the way.
No, I know. Yeah, after this, can we just sit down and watch it? Let's just sit down and watch it again.
I don't remember a time when I wasn't watching it. I just saw it the once.
Of course.
Yeah. It's like watching a pony die. Fucking movie.
Yeah.
Do a movie about a depressed race car driver and then kill yourself.
Yeah. Well,
So she had just come off the
she had
heat of
come off that,
Yeah.
and she wanted to be directed privately. You know, Marta. Let's, you know, the way I must confess most directors work. They go over and they put their arm around you.
Listen.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Think about your mom.
Yeah, and very
He
few
would go-
actors want to be yelled at.
He would go, Martha, it needs to go a little faster, darling, please. Because, and then he would crack a joke and everyone would laugh, and she was just,
Because otherwise I can order shoes from the catalog.
thank you. That's. Let me just set it up for you, but that's exactly right. And
She's the butt of his jokes. It's not
and the
just...
crew just adored him.
Yeah,
But did I tell you that I was supposed to? In this scene, I was supposed to carry. Someone yells, "Dutch, bring in the swan!" And I was supposed to come in carrying a swan.
A real
swan.
Sure.
It's my first day. I'm in Munich. Billy Wilder and the swan. And Billy says, "Have you talked to the swan wrangler yet?" And I said, "No." He said, "And it's swan wrangler." He said, "Talk to him. He's a nice guy. He's over here. Go talk to him because there's some stuff about the swan you should know." So the swan wrangler comes over, and he says, "Okay, have you ever handled a swan before?"
This is, by the way, there's a chapter in my book where I get squibbed for the first time, and the guy comes over and says, "You ever been squibbed before?" Right? And then 5 guys end up rabbit punching me in the chest to demonstrate in different ways what it's going to feel like. So when the guy says to you, "Have you ever
carried a swan before?"
What the fuck kind of question is that?
Yeah, how many people answer yes when you ask?
17th
no?
time. What do you want to know?
So I said no, and he said, "Well, here's the thing. Their heads are very powerful. That beak, very, very powerful. If you sense that he's uncomfortable, you want to put him down as fast as you can because he'll start flapping his wings, and the wings are very powerful. They can break your arms." What? And this is all what the guy's saying. Very powerful. And then make sure as you put him down, it's going to be hard, but you push him down, make sure his head can't get at you because it'll crack your skull if he is. So he's gone on like this.
Technically, he could crack your skull while you're holding him.
While I'm holding him, and breaking my arms from the wings, and I thought, I was sort of at the Cagney school of tell him you know how to horseback ride and then go learn how to ride, but I thought I don't think I could do this. I go over and say, Billy, the swan wrangler I don't think I can do this.
And of course you can. Don't be silly.
No, you know what he does? Izzy, I.A.L. Diamond, who's always on the set, his writer. Imagine that concept. Your writer is always on the set. They talked for a couple of minutes, and about 5 minutes later he said, "Can you carry a goose?" I said, "I think I could carry a goose, yeah." He said, "All right." So I brought the goose in, and the guy said, "That's not a swan." And I said, "It's a stand-in." And that's what they came up with in the 5 minutes.
He wrote you a joke?
He wrote me a joke.
Because you were a pussy.
Because I was a pussy. I couldn't, but there was no way.
The old adage, do you horseback ride, I've got a saddle in my trunk, is a horrible idea.
It's a bad idea if they're going to be shooting in the next hour or two. Yeah, if it's 6 weeks from now, tell them you can ride and you can go learn to ride. But if it had been 6 weeks, I might have learned to carry that swan, but I was not going to touch that swan.
It's a stand-in. That's a great joke.
And that's why he, that's why he always had him on the set. And Izzy Diamond, who was very quiet and bookish and just, lowest key guy imaginable. Nothing on about him. And you think of the jokes that he wrote, those two guys wrote. Jesus. I mean, not just jokes, but whole worlds of comedy that they created.
Yeah.
And really a very sort of almost taciturn guy, just like, he looked like a geology professor, at some small college. So that was, and Billy, I was only a couple of weeks and a few days of shooting, but oh my God, what a thrill.
Just to be in the presence of such legendary master.
Yeah, even, And even though the movie offended the critics at the time, because there was a line early on in the movie when Holden's character, I think just in voiceover, says something like, today anybody who picks up a 16mm camera can make a film. And it was it was Billy kind of zatzing the new wave of Easy Rider and things like that. And Pauline Kael and a few other critics jumped on that line and denounced Billy for denouncing the new wave of filmmaking. And it's like that line was like 5 minutes into the movie. It's like they never saw the movie.
Wow.
It really angered the critics.
I'd never heard of the
time.
film.
That's it. I mean, it died a very quick death.
Right.
And it's
Fedora. I have to see it, obviously.
Yes, with Michael York as himself.
Sorry, it sounded like you said with Michael York as himself, which is also the name of my third book.
I'm looking forward to that. It's my favorite credit in the movie, Michael York as himself.
It's pretty fantastic.
You don't usually see that on the billing block, but you do in Fedora.
You don't see it enough. I think is the answer.
Give me another example. You see it sometimes in the credits, so and so himself, but you don't see it in the billing block very often.
No. We had your son, your fictional son, from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia at this very table, Glenn.
Glenn.
How much fun is that for you to drop by that nut house?
Oh my God!
It comes back on next week.
I love It's Always Sunny. I mean, I just those guys. I think it's the only time in history that people have created, starred in, executive produced, mostly written and edited a show. Maybe Michael Landon.
Well, Louis C.K. is certainly doing it on
you're right.
On,
he is now. But they did it.
The same network. But here's a group of guys who were all unknowns. That part of it as a launching pad. Thursday, yeah. Debuts come back on Thursday. That as a launching pad, that hadn't really been done. Louis had a full career ahead of him before the network said, "Sure, you can do everything."
These guys are.
They had nothing.
They're so on it. The thing the first Sunny episode that I did, what impressed me was that Glenn had the day off. He wasn't shooting that day. He was on the set. Now, when you're working that hard and as an actor, and you get a day off, you want to go to sleep. Their attitude is, no, we're always on the set. This is our show. We produce it. So it doesn't matter to them whether they're acting or not. They're always on the set because all their voices need to be heard all the time. And I was so tickled because they actually wrote a part for me. Charlie had been an apprentice at Williamstown.
Jesus.
And had seen me in the Williamstown Cabaret, which is the actors in the main stage shows then go sing songs afterwards, and I put together a really makeshift band and did Good Lovin' or something, and Charlie had seen me and he said it was kind of like, he said, I wish I could remember his words, but it was a wonderful backhanded compliment about, it's like an old guy playing rock and roll, but it was pretty good. It was kind of like, I was like strangely good, but shouldn't have been. And that is kind
inexplicably enjoyable.
And so he wrote that into the script. The character that I played plays at a little benefit, and so they said, would you do this? And the show was brand new. They'd only done the first like 4 or 5 episodes. So I watched one, and I watched the next one, and the next one. I said, oh my God, absolutely. And I was so tickled because I went in the first day and we rehearsed the first scene, and Charlie came over and said, we basically have, some people are allowed to improvise on this and some show people aren't. Just do whatever you want to do.
Wow.
Whatever you want to do. He said, we've always got 2 cameras. It's like Curb that way, or Chris's movies. So there's coverage all the time. You don't have to match. We'll get, I love, there's nothing worse. And you realize this is the way most movies were made, that you do something funny, and then, but it was a wide shot, and now they're doing, remember to do that funny thing that you did, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard to do film comedy now with 2 cameras. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Isn't it heaven? I mean, it's just heaven when you get to. So each take is independent. They can use that take or not, but you don't ever have to try to do anything that you did before.
Right.
And those guys, I'm so tickled for them that it's all taken off. It's just, I love that show.
Pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
The Farrelly Brothers was a recent endeavor.
The Three Stooges.
Yeah.
The
Fun?
Three Stooges. It was fun.
I would imagine it'd be a really fun set.
I said to a friend, I've never done them. This is before I got there. I said, well, I'll know within 5 minutes whether, in my mind, the movie was worth making or not, because you're going to see these three guys, and you're either going to say they're the Stooges or you're not.
Right.
And I thought they were, I just think that they were absolutely brilliant. I mean, they picked the right three guys to play the Three Stooges, and you could see it immediately, so that you're not watching three guys do the Three Stooges. Right. They've somehow become the Three Stooges. And Bobby and Pete Farrelly loved the Stooges, and the movie really was an homage. There was no attempt. It was just a kind of very respectful thing. But they wrote a really good script, and in the script, if you know the Stooges, they would describe hits and slaps perfectly, so that if you read the script, you could see it. Oh yeah. It was all there in the script. And then the guys, Chris and Will, and Sean made it even better, because they would go home and find a YouTube video of the incredible Stooges slugfest for like 30 seconds. They would learn it, and they'd bring it in the next day and say, can we put this in the party scene right here? And so they just kept building on it. I actually think it's a delightful movie. But Bobby and Pete Farrelly are like, you've worked with brothers or two people who direct? It's such a strange concept. Pete is the one who, if you were on the set, you would say, oh, Pete is the director, because he's the one running back and forth and talking to most people. Bobby's very quiet. But they both weigh in on everything, and they also have about 8 friends who are co-producers who've produced every one of their movies. So these guys are back there, and this wouldn't necessarily always work, but it does for them. They go, one of them will go, really? You think that's funny? I don't know. Tell me why that's funny.
Wow.
And then they talk about it, and they have you do it a different way, but Pete Farrelly, you never wonder what he wants, because he'll come out while the camera's still rolling. He'll do that was good, good. Keep rolling, don't cut. Good, good, good. I want you to do one now with much more like really, really. So really, and he'll do it like 5 times. You go, I think I know what you want, and then he'll walk away and he'll say, so really. So you're not guessing, and if you give him that, he'll then let you do anything you want.
Right.
But it's the diametric opposite of what Marta Keller wanted. It's like Billy Wilder on steroids, because there's no attempt at all to get into your process. He just shows you what he wants.
Right.
And I saw that both bewilder and absolutely delight all the other actors. Any actor working for the first day would sort of be in shock, because they weren't used to just being so baldly being told what was wanted.
Yeah.
And then they kind of liked it, because it's like, okay, I know exactly what you want.
Well, it's interesting, because in the right hands, I love direction. And in the wrong hands, stop fucking talking.
Exactly.
So it really it's in the execution and your ability to communicate with some undertone of respect. If you just let the child in the sandbox know that they're perfect and then tell them how to change, it's that magic.
It is. And
Rob
boy, you've got to direct. Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm about to, and that's why I think, going over these things, because I have these instincts of what I've learned from these great directors. Some could communicate great, some not so great. But Rob has a thing where he ultimately, like you just did, gives line readings. But they're not, don't do it your way, do it my way. They're, that thing where you get to the point and you do the thing, and then the next thing you know, he's acting out the scene.
Yeah.
But he's acting out the scene as a way to communicate the musical rhythm that is the cadence within the beat.
Yes. Yes. Ooh. And if someone can do that, I'm fine.
But it also, I think, you can't second guess that. That's either the only way you can communicate, and that's how you might get away with it, or everything else looks like you're trying to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
If you can't help yourself, and his point, for me, his energy was almost like being directed by Baby Huey. You know, there was this big, large, emotionally involved co-creator who was simply communicating not from frustration, not from disappointment, not from anger or any of that, but rather from this incredibly playful, fun, creative.
Yes. And actually, that's what the Farrellys have. They never, I mean, they can get pissed off if something goes wrong, but they never are not having fun out there.
Right. That's it.
And you know, when all the money's being spent and it's actually it's very hard to keep your eye on that. It's elusive. It's like, you know, they say, you know, keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. It's really easy to look right in the middle and miss the thing itself. And good directors, however they work, they keep their attention on the thing. And I think you're right. You have to. There's no one way to do it. That's the other thing that's so crazy. That another director telling you how to do it the way Pete Farrelly does or Rob does, you'd think, shut up, get away from me. But
and I've worked with some that were great
not like that at all.
At casting. Right?
And that's
cast and then get out of the way.
Well, Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've never worked with him. Yeah. Cast and get out of the way, absolutely.
Scorsese literally.
Even Chris too, I think. I mean, I've only worked with Chris this much. I did a little tiny part in The Big Picture, but I've seen him on the set, and you know, he just cast the right people, and then you know, a little word every now and then, but not much.
Yeah, I called Barry Levinson the Phantom because that's how much he would get out of the way. Yeah,
and there's a real brilliance to that. I mean, that's really risky.
But within that, what if you're not getting what you want? So then the thing is, I'm not getting what I want, but they're being so creative and wonderful, who cares what I want? Which is that one way, but that's egoless. And
really risky when you think about it. You're giving up your vision.
But also the rhythm. It's always these musical rhythms, right? In the case of the piece that I'm allegedly directing, because I don't believe anything's real till I'm at the premiere these days, I used to say, I don't believe it's real till I'm on the set yelling action. Now I don't believe it's real till I'm at the premiere, because it can still get shut down.
Absolutely.
It is a matter of, in this case, I've written the piece also. So now I couldn't be more familiar with the musical rhythm and cadence of the dialogue and the characters and the pace and everything else. So when you don't get that, how do you relax your sphincter knowing you'll get it in editing? You know, you'll get it in your final rewrite. You can create pacing.
Yes.
That is
to a point.
Up to a point is the thing.
Yeah.
And nowadays too, with the shooting everything with two cameras, so that you are getting the master and the close-up often on film in the same setup.
Yeah.
Which means you're a little more married to that particular music and rhythm, even if you're changing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But that ability to communicate seems to be, you know, we've all heard the manipulation. That was great. What you just did was perfect. Should he be less angry? You know, again, to keep dropping the Scorsese thing, it's a little obnoxious, but I was shocked that someone that brilliant and an auteur at the visual, while knowing exactly what he wanted in every square inch of his frame and his composition, to the point of, you know, overthinking it and living and breathing and everything. Within that composition, the actors were 100% free to do literally whatever they wanted. That was shocking to me. I thought he would control every element.
I would have too.
In order to have the mechanism work perfectly all the way through.
How amazing. And you know, on the other end of the spectrum, I remember Alan Pakula, the first movie director I worked with, who said to me, if you're in a take...
All the President's Men?
All the President's Men. If you're in the middle of a take and you just feel like it's not happening, like nothing's happening, like it's just nothing's happening, I said, that's okay. Just tell yourself, that's okay, and just let it go. I might have 5 seconds of that take that I can use. Might be a 1.5-minute scene, but there might be 5. He said, just don't judge yourself. And if it's not happening, it might be wonderful.
Wow.
And I thought that I could remember that all by myself. And I learned in subsequent films, like Star Trek and things like that, that I need someone with that much taste all the time watching me, because otherwise I'll start acting.
That's a tremendous piece of direction. Because I can compartmentalize a part of it in the sense that, you know, the scene is 87 seconds, but there may be 17 seconds of it that, while you're feeling horrible about the whole, just gives me a look.
But
that I need.
As an actor, we want that 87. There's part of us that wants that 87 seconds to be a perfect little movie all by itself.
Of course.
Particularly if it's your close-up. Even though no one's ever going to watch 87 seconds of your close-up without cutting back and forth, you still want that 87 seconds to have been, you want to have hit, and you really.
And also for us, it felt real or it didn't. I was completely connected or I wasn't. I was thinking about acting instead of acting, or instead of being.
Pretending to listen instead of actually listening.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one for me. I'm sorry, I was just pretending to listen.
Yeah.
I didn't actually hear a word you said.
I had to start doing this show in order to learn to listen. See, the reason that stand-up comedians, for the most part, are not good actors, there's exceptions, of course, but it's not organic to our talent. Our talent is not listening as a stand-up comedian. You want to be aware of the audience's energy, and it drives and sets a tone and pace sometimes. But you are speaking, and your timing comes from your own. You'll hold for a laugh. You learn how to hold for them, but you're still waiting on them so that you can get back to your own design. And the idea of listening in a scene, I mean, that's everything.
Well, at the risk of sounding ass-kissing, what's interesting about watching this show is that you often let the guests talk for quite a long time. So you listen.
Yes.
But it's not because they're just going on, because you'll interrupt them. I was thinking this recently watching one. I thought, God, he's actually just been listening for a long time. And it was a really interesting story. Ed Begley was telling.
Yeah.
And
the best compliments I get on this show, in fact, Rob Reiner, when he finished the talking for 2 hours, we're an hour 50, by the way, can you believe that?
Wow.
When he got talking done for 2 hours, he said, "This is my favorite interview I've ever done." I said, "Come on, Rob." He said, "No, because you listen." My favorite compliment ever is you listen, and the number one criticism is, why do you keep interrupting?
Really?
Yeah.
God.
So for some, I'm still not listening enough. You can't please them all.
No, I think that's the beauty of doing this
show.
Well,
the design was, let's find out
well, if you
more than we normally do.
Yeah, and it's great not to have, it's the studio audience. I mean, a couple of people out here. It's great.
I've had people say, you got to do this live, and we've taken it on the road just a couple times up to Sketchfest in San Francisco and whatnot. But
better not to.
The truth is, the performer's ego will take over in the guest, and then they'll stop.
It has to.
They'll stop sharing and they'll start performing.
That's right, and you will want to get those.
Then it's
those
a different
laughs.
show.
Yeah, and then you have a pre-interview and.
No. When you get to audition your anecdotes.
Oh God.
So I understand you went skiing recently, and then you tell the skiing story to the segment producer on the phone the night before,
That's right.
and then you finish your skiing story, which you think is the funniest damn story you've ever told, and you hear the segment producer on the phone say, "Huh." What else you been up to?
Yeah. Yes.
Let's see if there's a question from. Let's do it on the Tweet 5. Keckner?
T5, T5, T5 forever now.
And truly forever.
This one comes to us from @JWJ170104, because that's a name.
Boy, were there that many?
Reverend Camden Dayton King.
Is that an either or?
I think. I hope.
Oh, well,
Unless that's all one person that I don't know.
No, Dayton King was this character I played on No Ordinary Family, but we only got to do it one season. I'd have to go with Reverend Camden, even though King would have been fun if the show had gone on. It would have been really fun.
That would have been delicious.
Yeah.
And Margaret Rona Downey. What kind of question is that? That's not even...
That's just like kill yourself. But, Anne Margaret, I love them both. But Anne Margaret, oh my God.
Yeah,
getting to work with her
Yeah.
was one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah.
Just one of the great people of all time.
Remarkable sweetheart.
Yes.
I once got lost in a conversation with her outside of her trailer on the Grumpy Old Men movie so long that the director arrived in a golf cart saying, "You guys, Seriously, we're waiting for you on set. And you just get lost in those eyes and the stories and forget it. And then Elvis said, what?
And the kindest person who ever walked the earth.
Yeah. Star Trek, Star Wars.
Well, if we, I'd have to, oh boy, Star Wars.
Good.
I'll die for saying that, but yeah.
Or
Star
be killed.
Wars. I was never, I'm not a science fiction fan in general, which is odd, but I'd go Star Wars.
Not that odd. The Captain or King Arthur?
The Captain or King Arthur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then lastly, writer or guitarist?
Writer. I'm such a totally mediocre guitarist.
Although
Probably
I
a
will
mediocre
say,
writer too, but
when you played it on The Office as Andy's father,
oh,
that was awfully enjoyable.
thank you.
Those
That was on. I thought the script just said we take out a guitar and sing a song. It's with Josh Groban, and I said to I met Josh and I said, so you'll play the guitar, right? And he said, I don't play guitar. I was like, I have to learn this song now in like 5 minutes. But that was fun. It was fun to do.
Well, as a fan, you couldn't tell that you learned it in 5
good,
minutes.
good.
No. You've answered 87% correctly based on the dossier. That's pretty great.
That's a B plus.
An 87?
That's a B plus.
Come on.
Is it a B or a B plus?
I'm going to say B plus.
Yeah, B plus. They're not 88 to. All right, B plus. I'll take B plus.
We didn't talk enough about All the President's Men, but by the way, sexy thriller and a perfect summer read, this debut novel from Stephen Collins is a hot page-turner that heralds a terrific new voice in fiction. I'm just saying, folks, get yourself a copy of The Eye Contact.
And I think you can buy it for a penny at Amazon now. It's out of print. And I've been actually...
All the more reason.
I'm trying to get a Kindle version of it out, but I haven't had time. A Kindle.
Sure,
This
that's
means
the
a Kindle
international
version.
sign of... I used to be piano player.
Yes.
Now it's-
I don't know what it has to do with Kindle, frankly.
There's no
There's
this.
no.
Nope. Yeah.
No.
Maybe this.
No, this or, yeah, but not this. I lost my head.
Do you feel familiar enough with the Larry King game to start to focus your very own?
Oh, God. I guess.
We're getting near the point,
yeah.
just to let you know.
All right.
When you're ready, that's your camera. You will simply look into it as Larry King and take us through the following. It's that little bumper moment that Larry would offer up King's things or something from his life dating back to his first ride on a pterodactyl. Anything that happened, and then you go to the phone and the name of the city could be funny sounding, would not hurt.
Could I use these?
Get right in there.
Is these my? Aren't
Oh,
these
that's great.
My prostate has become so large, it has a zip code in the great state of New Jersey. Piscataway, you're on.
I don't know that we can ask for more,
Please don't.
technically.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love the. I'm
Almost as
honored to be a part of the great tradition.
Please. Almost as intimidating as portraying JFK in the Emmy-winning miniseries A Woman Named Jackie.
Almost.
How daunting was that, by the way?
It was. There was a great thing that happened with that, and it's the only time in my life I ever had something like this happen. I was asked I got offered the role, and I can't remember how, but I knew they really wanted me. And Lester Persky was the producer, rest his soul. And he was this crazy New York character who produced a lot of good stuff. And I read the script, and I was 12 when JFK took office, and I remember him really well. Of course, he had a huge effect on my generation. And what I remembered was a sense of humor, and of course, he was famous for his sexuality, and none of that was in the script. And so I said to Lester, I'm going to call Lester Persky and said, Lester, I want to do this, but I want to warn you, I'm going to try to rewrite a lot of my stuff. If you can let me do that, I will do this. I will do it in such a way that honors the writing. It won't change any of the cues. It won't. And so I with just And I did that without, I mean, I didn't affect anybody else's words or dialogue.
Didn't have to change context.
And I felt good about eventually getting some of what I remembered as being charismatic about him in there. And it was really fun to and he was like, fine, do it. And then, you know, they didn't really like it when I did it, but they put up with it because I think it kind of worked. And it was Roma Downey. It was before. It was funny. Touched by an Angel on Seventh Heaven. It was before both of those, and she was just lovely to work with. And the miniseries was kind of all over the place. Some of it was really schlocky, and some of it was really good.
Yeah.
It did win the Emmy.
I remember it being quite good.
And it was just the greatest moment for me in that was that on a TV within the show, at some point in a scene that Jackie is in, the inaugural address is happening. And it's like in the background. But I got to stand on the steps of the Capitol building in Richmond, subbing us. And I was literally all alone. There was nobody out there. They're doing the shot of me going, you know, ask not. And I'm speaking at the top of my lungs. And I swear to God, I hadn't thought of this until this moment. African-American guy is walking in the distance, and he stops. I see him. He's the only person. I'm playing to no one except a camera. And I see this guy stop and look up and go.
Wow.
And I thought, that's like the coolest moment. And then, you know, it literally in the miniseries, you see like 2 seconds of it on a TV, and mostly it's just in the background. But that guy, for a second, was getting a little shot of what I was hoping people would get a shot of.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know why, but I'll never forget that moment.
It's your favorite also, I'm guessing your favorite moment of having someone in your eye line.
Yes.
Single greatest.
And he was 50 yards away, you know, so yes, but that's true. He was.
But he stopped from his
but he stopped what he was doing.
daily rounds.
Yeah, he wasn't on the film.
No.
He was just walking by somewhere. And I don't know, that was just so strange and sweet. Yeah.
Perfectly surreal.
Yeah, perfectly surreal, yeah. Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, but I will.
Thank me enough.
Thank you, sir. Very, very
That's
much.
enough, thank you.
For spending a couple of hours of your Sunday with us.
What a pleasure.
We are, well, I'll be the judge of that.
Oh, you're right.
We are extremely grateful that you made time for us.
I understand. I get to take one of these home?
Well, you have a travel version of it.
A travel version of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone wants the actual ceramic.
The home
but
version.
You know, they break.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
We've gone through 20. But the travel one.
Like the hearts of everyone in show business. They break.
Yeah. I'm a little less of a orange flavor face.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know
In the home version?
what color that is in the travel version.
Yeah. You're insisting on calling it the travel version.
Yeah.
I want to call it the home version.
Well,
the home version of the Jeopardy
you know
game.
what? It's a travel mug. One of
Okay.
the tall things you put in the car.
Yeah.
If you choose to use
I
that
see.
within your domicile.
I see, okay. I
then-
see.
then-
I get it. It
Bless
actually is
you.
a travel version. So
Yeah.
the home version is a misnomer.
Well,
All right.
sit there uncomfortably while I wrap things up, if you don't mind, for the people at home.
Not at all.
There we have it, number 157. In the can, as it were, also does not exist in this medium.
No can.
No can, thankfully. Next week, next Sunday, the 14th, Alan Arkin. After that, we come back the 21st with Matt Walsh. And then I think we take a little time off as I begin in the throes of the book tour. Check kevinpollack.tv to see if I'm coming to a town near you. If you're in the greater Los Angeles area, the day after the presidential election, Wednesday, the 7th of that November, I'll be doing a book signing at the Barnes & Noble The Grove. How the hell about that? Also, I think it just locked up the Jimmy Fallon the Friday before, or the Friday after that. Yeah, Friday after that. I think it's the 9th. But I'll be obnoxiously annoying you with all of that stuff in the coming weeks. That is our show. I want to thank Justin, Jason, and Josh for working overtime in the absence of others. Also Samantha, of course, for taking at least a year off my face. Elaine Ewing for doing a great job as always. Jamie will be back on the 21st on the Matt Walsh show, or so I've been told. I think that's it.
Can I point something out?
Please?
Here you are,
Yes.
across the table from me, and there's a monitor about equally far away.
Uh-huh.
When you're speaking and doing the wrap-up stuff, I'm watching the monitor. Now, why is that? I'm watching the monitor. It's 3 feet farther away than you are here.
It's only real on TV.
It's only real on TV. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I just thought I needed to pass that along.
Yeah. Well, it's just a guy talking, sitting across the table. On the TV, it's
No,
a thing.
it's a guy on TV.
Yeah, and that's a thing.
Yeah,
A
it's a
lot of
thing.
guests do that.
Yes, by the way.
Well, it's like the old days at Dodger Stadium when everybody would bring the little TV sets and watch the TV set rather than the game.
Yeah.
So that's what I just did.
Yeah, the game's not real in front of them. It's just a bunch of
But if
guys
it's
running
on
around the
TV.
grass. But it's on TV, it's a thing, it's happening. Well, thank you for that. And everything else. Until next weekend, as always. Get out of my face. Longest buffering gag ever. Yeah, went for the record.